Today I'll be talking about Khan. In order to talk about Khan, I'm using a few psychological concepts. It's important to note that the psychological concepts I'll be using are generally considered out of date in the psychological field. I'm sure if there are any psychologists watching, they'll be able to tell me how outdated many of these ideas are, rooted as they are in the past. However, I found while doing research for this video that these concepts are great frameworks to approach Khan's character, so I will be using them. Just keep in mind that they're a bit antiquated, and also that I shouldn't be considered a psychologist or psychology expert. I just did some research. Now let's get stuck into it. Khan, the young man who has forged a new republic of children from an impossible tower, bringing with him the children of the town, pushing up towards heaven and stealing fire from the gods, or more accurately, his family. He's the cartographer of a new reality and a general for the new army that will maintain the new republic's sovereignty. Caspar Kane, the naive boy who seeks to create a new society from one that has already begun its final death throes, taking with him similarly naive children who do not understand the way of the world, afraid and confused regarding the future, a boy as yet unaware of how dangerous it could be to spend his life in a world cut off from reality. Khan is both of these people at once, a headstrong, obstinate young man who shall take the reins of leadership in his hands no matter the personal cost to himself, and an arrogant teenage boy who sees in the immediate future his own mortality, and not just that, but the mortality of his friends. Khan is 15 years old at the beginning of the game. He has already been concealed within his tower for some time. He drew to him the youth of the town, those who he did not see as adults. Those who followed him were eager to shirk responsibility to the town and instead become a part of a grand and all-encompassing miracle. Khan sees himself as something of a prophet, a herald for a new age. He even commands a small army of loyal followers, the Dogheads. The Dogheads are faceless and representative of the idea of miracles. Unlike their rivals, the Soul and a Halves, the Dogheads are not 1.5 souls, one fledgling human soul in the shape of a beast. The quote from one Doghead in Pathologic 2 explains their ethos. We live in the tower and they crawl on the earth. They're drawn to animals and we reach for the stars. What's so hard to comprehend? While their war may be a play of sorts, make-believe for children, at least from the perspective of an ignorant adult, it turns out that war for Khan and the other children is deadly serious. Khan is a great general and a believer in his troops, almost like a proto-Commander Block. If it were not for Capella's wisdom, I imagine it would be Khan who would take on the burden of total leadership of the town's children. Instead, he is merely leader of the children ensconced within the polyhedron. His vision of the future is one of youth-centric rule. Instead of a gerontocracy, he has a pedocracy in mind. It is revealed in the Haruspex's story that Khan only moves out or away from the polyhedron for essentially two reasons. Firstly, when he was drawn to Isidore Burak to learn from him. Isidore saw something in him as well as the other foremost youths of the town. The second reason is when something threatens the polyhedron or the other foremost children of the town. Take the scenario of the Death House in Pathologic 2. He comes to meet with Notkin, his sworn enemy, just to ensure the safety of the town, and by extension the safety of both Notkin and the other children who might be put into danger. His stubbornness and bullheadedness is demonstrated in this quest as well. When Artemy tells him straight that going to the house is a bad idea, it turns out that he goes there with Notkin anyway, and this in turn shows us Khan's very strong moral centre. Khan refuses to return to the polyhedron after this event, knowing that his entry could potentially bring the plague to the one area that could withstand the storm raging outside. Instead, he sequesters himself in the nutshell, almost a seedling of the polyhedron, a place where Dogheads and other children come from time to time, a home away from home. A place abandoned by adults and given over to children. One question I was really curious about answering for myself was whether or not Khan has any potential connection to a so-called Peter Pan syndrome, a syndrome that is not officially recognized by the World Health Organization, but one that still seems to have some academic discourse around it. The syndrome is, of course, linked to the famous children's character Peter Pan, the boy who never ages and stays forever young. The syndrome itself focuses around the basic idea that the person is unable to age on a mental level, that they would refuse to adopt the attitude of an adult at any stage. This idea comes from Dr. Dan Kiley, who published this idea back in 1983. Good old Wikipedia says it nicely. Dr. Kiley got the idea for the Peter Pan syndrome after noticing that, like the famous character in the J.M. Barrie play, many of the troubled teenage boys he had treated had problems growing up and accepting adult responsibilities. This trouble continued on into adulthood. The basic criteria for the syndrome is as follows. letting others plan activities and make big decisions, neglecting household chores and childcare responsibilities, i.e. basic duties. The individual prefers to live for today and shows little interest in making long-term plans, shows signs of emotional unavailability, such as not wanting to label or define relationships, spends money unwisely and have other trouble with personal finances, consistently avoids addressing relationship issues in productive ways. And after this basic list, I think it's fair to say that Khan is not afflicted by Peter Pan syndrome. It just happens to be that he is disgusted with the way the adults of the town have acted, especially his family, who it is safe to say he is not on the best of terms with. However, there's another idea that circulates, the idea of per eternus, which is Latin for eternal boy. This is another fairly old psychological idea, which the famous psychologist Carl Jung first penned. The idea is referenced in psychologist Darrell Sharp's Digesting Young, in which he states essentially that puer typically leads a provisional life due to the fear of being caught in a situation from which it might not be possible to escape. He or she covets independence and freedom, opposes boundaries and limits, and tends to find any restriction intolerable. Khan certainly fits some of these ideas a bit better. Some have argued that an eternal boy is an underminer of civilization, a person who would refuse to be involved in society to such a degree that they are willing to wreak havoc and play contrarian to get the way they seem to want. Khan has elements of the eternal boy around him. He is often deliberately contrarian and confrontational, and his ideas about the future are centered around the youth holding power and discarding old ideas. But I would still not say he fits the model perfectly. He's willing to engage seemingly in a long-lasting and mature relationship with Capella, shows emotional maturity on several occasions, and in Pathologic 2 apologizes to Artemy when he falls ill, showing he is willing to accept the real world. Placing himself before other people and accepting his own mortality also directly contradicts the elements of puer eternus. The reason I find this a valuable way to look at Khan is that throughout a lot of the story he seems to believe he is this eternal boy, this puer eternus. Take this quote from him: "I won't grow at all. I haven't grown an inch in 15 years." Not merely a reference to his status as an unchanging doll, this captures the essence of his beliefs. He is the eternal boy, the one who can lead the youth and rebel against adults. It is worth noting he leans towards an authoritarian ideology and rules strongly himself, though beyond tenets regarding himself and the treatment of others aligned with his cause, he doesn't really seem to want to enforce any particular limits on his followers. The only adult he trusts before Artemy and the Bachelor is Artemy's father and perhaps Simon Kane. Khan is a character who covets independence and freedom from all those who would seek to coral him. He, like his family, opposes boundaries and limits in all their forms. The boundary the Kanes most often seek to conquer is death. For Khan, the boundary is not death, but the limitations of earthly society. The Dogheads explain again. These masks remind us we're still beasts, and the true humans inside us are yet to come out. They can't see well, are almost deaf, and speak only in gibberish. Lots of room left for growth. I don't recall a time when Khan believed himself immortal, but I can certainly recall many times he obstinately refused to obey the orders of his elders. The purpose of living in the polyhedron is to form a new republic, a future free of those who Khan sees as oppressive, namely elders. At one point in Pathologic 2, he laments the influence of those older than him and how they have driven him to do what he does. And one of his spoken dialogues again captures the essence of this. What do people become when they grow up? Think about it. His most interesting character development comes from the Death House, which forces him to stay grounded. Up until this point in the story, he has been lofty, untouchable in the impossible palace in the sky. When he is forced to the ground, he is reminded of the vulnerability and mortality he has, and that is something he owns over the course of the story. This comes to a head when he falls ill after the plague's final evil twist, when all of Artemy's bound fall ill. Khan admits to Artemy that he is sorry for how he has acted, and how he regrets what has brought him to death's door. This is a confronting and genuinely honest moment, and Khan has to accept that perhaps he will not be the eternal boy striding into the future. For a while at any rate, Khan is just as terrifyingly mortal as Simon Kane and Isidore Burak, and he knows this all too well. In the original game, Khan has somewhat of a reduced personality, and that the time you spent with him is less interesting as a character. He's one of the characters whose personalities vastly improved from the original game. He existed sort of as a thematic concept rather than a character to most degrees. A particularly interesting moment, however, in the original is when he proves his qualities as a war leader, a young general. He has the desire to hoard a number of rifles and seal himself and the children in the polyhedron, threatening to shoot anyone except the bachelor who approaches. It's a task on that day to find a way to supply Khan with rifles, should you so choose. Other than this though, I'm hard pressed to find a particularly interesting or defining character moment that shows his dynamism and passion in the original game. But he does still have a number of interesting ideas to share in the original game, which does make him worth talking to, but doesn't really connect you to him as a character. It's here I wanted to talk about the polyhedron for a little while. Khan is focused on the stars. He loves the idea of building a staircase even higher, a tower to touch and pierce heaven. His domain is inherently the sky. The polyhedron is far bigger than it looks, and it's already huge. Inside, it functions like another dimension. Adults see mirrors, mere reflections of themselves. To those with no imagination or life or spark, the polyhedron contains nothing new. This is probably what Peter Stomartin sees and why he is driven so heavily to drink. To the protagonists, they can see inklings of the polyhedron's potential. Countless diagrams and scribblings adorn the Miracle Tower's flesh, but they are often unintelligible. Peter's designs for them are everywhere, and you can see the raw potential. It is heaven for those who have the mental spark enough to see. Khan respects the bachelor in the original game when he confesses he only sees paper. That's more than most see, Khan concedes, and opens up to the bachelor further. Khan is the cartographer of the hidden depths of the polyhedron. The children spend weeks in there, exploring any number of different fascinating lands. To the children, the polyhedron is an expanding refractor of imagination itself. Every single sensation you could possibly imagine is projected outwards from your mind and caught by the polyhedron. The walls that would be an obstacle to you or I would be non-existent to Khan and the other children. They could be a sandy beach, or a bustling city, some strange foreign jungle. Khan could, if he was so willing, tell you about all these things, but rarely does he find the time or the inclination. Adults will find nothing here, only walls without doors, he says. Perhaps you notice the connection between the polyhedron and the idea of the immortal boy and the provisional life. A short reminder, the provisional life is an attitude toward life that is more or less imaginary, not rooted in the here and now. The polyhedron engenders the ideas, no matter how beautiful these ideas are. Well, the polyhedron is an inspiring building and a bona fide miracle. The polyhedron also has this dark side, creating an attitude to life that is rooted in fantasy. Khan seems to have a decent handle on it now, but perhaps one day it shall escape him. Khan's balanced between two worlds. Perhaps one day he should end up like Peter Stomartin, grieving for the world he loved but can no longer see. On the threshold of adulthood, he still strives to remember the essence of youth and childhood that already threatens to be snatched away from him. His sister Maria is head of a society of people known as signs, former adolescents who can no longer see the polyhedron as it really appears. The trials and tribulations of the plague could be the rushing river that threatens to take that which he loves most away from him and deliver him to the waiting arms of adulthood. But Khan, I think, is of sturdier stuff than Peter Stomartin, the lovable, neurotic artist. Khan is a warrior, it's important to remember. Out of his family, he is the one you would most likely see commanding troops, and this is because he does. Perhaps you don't take his dog head seriously, but they are an army all of their own. Khan is the young, notably authoritarian warrior facing towards the future. His rule, were he to go on without Capella, would be fixed on the stars. Capella is the grounding force, the woman who will grab his lapels and pull him back down to earth as he tries to float away. Khan says this about his own path, should he die. My path was called the High Day. If not for the plague, I'd have seized power from the adults and instituted a dictatorship of the juveniles. But Capella had a better idea. He believes in the idea of matriarchy, something I want to talk about in the next video. He says, all in all, girls know better than boys. We'll leave the boys out. Khan tries to live in a world of absolutes. He believes in his future society fully and is convinced after death that only the plague itself stopped his plans from coming to fruition. As the game progresses, Khan opens up to the other children, becoming less reclusive, and steps into a role of responsibility should he survive. For the youngest member of the Canes, life is not necessarily a boundary to be broken, but unjustified laws that bind life to dull, meaningless affairs are the constant bitter taste in his mouth. If there is anything Khan truly hates, it's pure mundanity, the reduction of life to sets of routine, always bending the knee to someone who thinks they know better just because they have a few grey hairs. It is never worth discarding Khan's two occupations. He is a cartographer of a new world, the polyhedron, and he is a general who leads his troops. Both of these jobs involve thinking on your feet and trying something new every time. Khan is balanced between two seemingly contrasting ideologies. As I discussed before, he is on the threshold of adulthood, but he is also trying to make a society based around his authoritarian military ideas of fighting always against enemies, but his enemies seem to be similarly authoritarian, at least in his rhetoric. The polyhedron is an ideal of freedom. Can authoritarianism be reconciled with ideas of freedom? And can you reconcile these two parts of Khan? Perhaps, perhaps not. In the end, Khan goes with Capella's idea of ruling the town, whatever that may be. But should Capella die, what route would Khan turn to? I foresee Khan's ideal town as one with dogheads as the patrolmen, while the regular citizens of the town turn their thoughts towards the arts, culture, and new fields of science. It would be a haven for the free thinkers, so long as your thoughts remain free. That is why Khan is such a great character. He contains these two opposing ideologies that constantly war with each other, but can also somehow coexist in a weird sort of harmony. It's a famously human trait, one that separates us from other animals. Our ability to hold two differing viewpoints at once, or being to act to some degree on both, makes us the complex creatures that we are. Khan, the young general who will protect his people at any cost with force if necessary. Caspar Kane, heir to the free-thinking, boundary-breaking Kane family, seeing art and life and beauty in everything. He is a great character, and I'm looking forward to interacting with him further in the Bachelor's route, as the Bachelor will no doubt have much more to do with the polyhedron than Artemy ever did. Hello everyone again. Thanks for watching this video. There's a lot going on with Khan's character, and probably I could have talked for a bit longer, but I'm afraid that would have bored people had I talked about Khan all day. I find him a really fascinating character though, belonging to several different worlds all at once. He's very human. A lot of fictional characters struggle to reach that point of believability and humanity, and certainly I would find it difficult to write this much about a lot of fictional characters. I hope you're still enjoying this series. Looking forward to writing about other characters some more in future. As with last time, I'll be providing a link to my blog, which I work really hard on. It contains a lot of stuff to do with game design, analysing writing in games, narrative themes, and just generally a lot of recommendations to you about interesting games I've played and think more people could do with playing. Finally, stay safe everyone.